Today, we are diving deep into the world of high-stakes digital crime. We're talking about billion-dollar scams, shadowy offshore accounts, and yeah, the financial detectives who are fighting back. So, let's get into it.
Let's just start with a number, a really big number, over $4.3 billion. Now, that's not the budget of a small country. That is the penalty that Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange, had to pay. And why? Well, they basically admitted to putting profits ahead of following U.S. anti-money laundering laws. This allowed all sorts of criminals to use their platform to move dirty money. A fine this huge just shows you the insane scale of the problem we're up against.
So, that leads us to the big question, right? How do they actually do it? How do these criminals and shady organizations manage to pull off these massive heists, seemingly right under everyone's noses? First, we're going to break down the playbook for the scams themselves, and then we'll get into how law enforcement is actually fighting back.
Okay, so first up, the New Age heist. We're going to dissect exactly how these schemes are built from the ground up, starting with one of the most common and frankly dirtiest tricks in the crypto world.
Say hello to the rug pull. It's brutally simple, but wow, is it effective. First, scammers create a brand new crypto token. Then they hype it up online with all these wild promises, right? They get investors to pour in real money, thinking they're getting in on the next big thing. But as soon as that pool of money gets big enough, poof, the developers just disappear. They drain all the funds, and the investors are left holding a completely worthless token. It's like a bank robber emptying the vault and then just teleporting away.
And if you want to understand the speed of these crimes, just look at this. Take Anubis DAO. This project had no website, no formal plan, pretty much nothing but a cool dog logo. And still, it managed to raise almost $60 million from investors, overnight. And then, just 20 hours later, every single penny was gone. Vanished. That's how fast a digital heist can happen in our world.
Okay, so let's shift gears now. We're moving from a quick smash and grab like the rug pull to a much more elaborate, long-term con. We're talking about the modern-day Ponzi scheme. And the numbers here are they're staggering. Get this, $1.5 billion. That is how much Bitcoin flowed into just one Russia-based Ponzi scheme called Finico before the whole thing finally imploded.
So what's really fascinating is how Finico's playbook actually worked. For almost 2 years, they promised these insane returns. We're talking up to 30% a month to people in places with struggling economies. You know, people who are really vulnerable. It was a classic Ponzi scheme. Just use the new investors' money to pay off the earlier ones. They managed to pull in over 800,000 separate deposits, and then of course they laundered the money through illicit services to try and cover their tracks. It was just a huge, predatory operation hiding in plain sight.
So, okay, you've got the money from the rug pull or your Ponzi scheme collapses. The criminals now have a new problem. How in the world do you hide billions of dollars? And that brings us to the next piece of this whole puzzle, the very shadowy world of shell companies and offshore finance.
You know, I absolutely love this analogy I saw from a Reddit user because it makes a really complex idea super simple. Just think of an offshore account like having a second piggy bank that you keep over at your friend Johnny's house. Your mom knows all about the piggy bank at your house, right? But she has no idea about the secret one. Now, not everyone using that secret piggy bank is doing something wrong. Some people just want privacy. But it's also the perfect place to hide your stolen lunch money. And that right there is basically what offshore shell companies do. They provide a secret place to keep your money.
And this is where we have to be really clear about a crucial distinction. On one hand, you have tax avoidance. That's legally using rules and structures to minimize what you owe. Think of someone like the actress Emma Watson. Her name came up in the Panama Papers, but she was using an offshore company to protect her privacy, not to get out of paying taxes. And then you have tax evasion. That's illegally hiding your money to avoid paying taxes you owe. That's just fraud. The big leaks like the Panama Papers, they expose both. But it's the illegal evasion that really kicks off these massive investigations.
So, we've seen how the crimes happen. Now let's look at how the criminals actually get caught. It's time to meet the financial detectives of the IRS Criminal Investigation Unit, or as they call it, IRSCI.
You know, an investigation today, it doesn't start with a magnifying glass. It starts with data. And we're talking a mind-boggling amount of data. IRSCI agents sift through petabytes of digital evidence. That's literally millions of gigabytes from thousands of seized devices every single year. They're just looking for that one digital breadcrumb, that single thread that can unravel a whole billion-dollar scheme.
But it's not all high-tech wizardry. All that digital work gets paired with good old-fashioned detective skills.
Agents are meticulously following the paper trail, connecting offshore accounts, shell companies, and wire transfers to map out the entire criminal enterprise. It is a painstaking, tedious process of connecting all the dots.
And this is what it's all for. All of that digital forensics, all of that paper chasing, it leads right here. The trail doesn't just stop at a bank account, it ends with real-world consequences. It means taking criminals off the streets and completely dismantling their operations.
And what makes IRSCI so incredibly effective is their unique power. They are the only federal agency in the United States with the authority to investigate criminal tax violations. That special jurisdiction gives them a lens to see crimes that other agencies might miss. Because you know what they say, you always follow the money.
So here's the bottom line. It can't just be about reacting to crime after it happens. It's about building a system to prevent it in the first place. So in our final section, let's look at how the net is closing in, from both private companies and the government.
Okay, here is a brilliant example of a private company stepping up to the plate. The crypto platform Luno. They saw that their users in South Africa were being hit hard by this massive scam. So instead of just sending out warnings, they did something proactive. Using data on wallets they knew belonged to scammers, they just started actively blocking their users from sending money to those addresses. Simple as that.
And the results? They were immediate and they were dramatic. Transfers from Luno wallets to these known scam addresses plummeted by 88%. One user even told them, "Thank you, Luno. I was about to lose my pension and savings." And this really brings us to a huge takeaway. Probably the single most effective tool we have against these scams isn't just reacting after the fact. It's proactive prevention. It's about building in guardrails to protect people before they become victims.
And on the government side, the fight is definitely happening on multiple fronts. We already talked about the massive penalty against Binance. Well, the founders of that Finico Ponzi scheme, they were arrested. The SEC is now forcing companies to be transparent about cyber attacks within 4 days. And the task force that's digging into the Panama Papers, that's led to dozens of criminal investigations. So this isn't just one agency working alone, it's a coordinated systemic takedown of financial crime.
Which, of course, leaves us with one last big question to think about. As technology gets more advanced, well, so do the criminals. For every new defense that gets built, a new way to attack it emerges. So the ultimate question is, in this endless cat-and-mouse game, is it even possible for the good guys to ever truly get, and more importantly, stay one step ahead?